And here we are, ladies and gentlemen, on Cloud Kingdom. And down to the bottom left-hand corner, we have our green Protoss player. Sponsored by Team Grubby, it's Grubby. And he's going to be going up against his opponent here in the upper right-hand corner. Our orange Terran player from Caronte Esports Club, the Spanish Terran player, LucifroN.
All right, man. Well, Grubby, as I mentioned, last 2 weeks, he switched 100% to Heart of the Swarm. He's coming out here playing Wings of Liberty. And actually, his play in Heart of the Swarm is pretty stellar. He's actually going for a very sky toss-oriented type of plays. Lots of Oracles, lots of Phoenix, as a lot of Protoss players are going for. But Oracle is unfortunately not in Wings of Liberty. So I'm very curious as to what he has planned out for LucifroN.
All right, well, we'll find out here, and I'm certainly curious to see what LucifroN's going to have at his disposal, too. Certainly has a lot of flexibility in his builds. Could put on some pressure at the beginning. LucifroN also with the capability to be able to sit back and just go to massive macro mode, too. So
yeah, he's got 3 major builds he loves to pull off against Protoss that I noticed in the last month or two. Really likes to go gas first into, of course, reacted Hellion into the Banshee play that I was mentioning earlier. He loves 3 CC opening, goes into the command center, falls up into a 3rd, and then he has a 2 Rex that he loves to pull off, throw up into the matches every once in a while. So watch out for LucifroN to potentially go those routes. And looking into Grubby here, just falling up into his first gateway, which of course is very standard. You can't really do much without a gateway.
Yeah, no, a little bit difficult, much like Supply Depot for the Terran
players. If they do, they've broken the game. They're definitely hacking. So
that's right. Yeah, but so obviously a couple of structures need to be added on. LucifroN, of course, putting down that Supply Depot. The second one to prevent this probe scout will certainly give Grubby a little bit of pause, wondering what's going to be going on here. And this is very effective, even though we see, you know, LucifroN's not following this up with any gas or anything like that. Grubby certainly has to be prepared for the possibility and take a little bit safer expansion route. Yeah,
LucifroN does this actually every game. He will wall off no matter what, and this allows his 3 main builds to actually be able to be fluctuated between. It's impossible to scout what LucifroN's going for, so that's why he can go for 3 CC, and your opponent might be expecting some kind of aggression on it. And he'll rotate between the 3 builds a lot during a lot of series, so always watch for that wall off to happen. He will do it every single game. That way he can do whatever he wants behind the wall.
All right, so let's see here now. Grubby just on a single gas for now. Sometimes you will see players when they are denied their scout will end up going for the second gas and going for a little bit safer Sentry 1 gate expand, but it looks like Grubby's just going to continue along his path. May produce that Stalker here in a second just to stay extra safe, but LucifroN is going to get a scout.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to go ahead and fall up into an expansion here, but he went ahead and kept the gas just for the mere fact that he has no idea what exactly LucifroN's going for. But with LucifroN coming in as scout, he'll know that he'll be safe with the second command center here, and I'm really curious to see if he goes for that 3rd and he puts outside of his main to the left there, which is pretty normal for him. It's just the build that he enjoys doing. He is getting his gas first here, so he can start moving into that blood factory of his. And keep an eye on Grubby. Whenever we see a couple of sentries pop out, that's what LucifroN really wants. He brings his Hellions down and he just focuses down the sentries immediately. He wants to prevent his opponent from any early game pressure from ever happening.
All right, well, Grubby has ceased unit production for the time being. Now that he has that Stalker and Zell to stay a little bit safer. Of course, LucifroN has control of the Zelnaga Tower and is ready to scoot away with that SEV as soon as possible, and does. Oh, actually, just going to try and turn that back in for a scout, but good reaction time by Grubby, and he's going to shut down that SEV and prevent any secondary scout from happening.
Not quick reaction, man. So if you go and chase it down, SEV is killed off. Sad life for him. Bunker now on the way here for LucifroN. Pretty normal. You're going to see that in a lot of TVPs. You simply just need that bunker, especially with him falling up into potentially a quick factory. He does have 2 racks here, though. Has a tech lab, falls up into reactor as well. So potentially can get cuts of shells really quickly and just fire and push across the middle of the map. And if Grubby's a little bit too greedy, you can get a nice amount of damage in.
Well, he's actually going to take Stim Pack here,
wow.
So going for a little bit longer upgrade. Could hit with a little bit more power here in just a bit, too, while reinvesting into his economy. Of course, this could just be a jumping pad, too, into a little bit later tech, as we'll find out here in just a bit. But for the time being, Grubby decides to put up 2 gateways and put those up at about the 28-29 supply mark. So he is feeling a little bit in danger at the moment. He thinks that there's going to be some pressure and wants to prioritize his units. Robotics facility drops down at about the right time, but we'll see what he can get done here. He does a very nice job of picking up on this bunker here up at the front, and he's actually going to pick off an SCV too.
Yeah, very safe opening here for Grubby as well. First off, he's keeping the pressure on his opponent so he can do whatever he wants at home, but he's going into the extra gateways in the Robo, which again just allows him to do whatever. You can hold off a majority of pushes with 3 gates, as well as get that Robo out so you can observe out immediately, and also start moving into Immortals if you need to hold off any major aggression coming from you. Interesting build from LucifroN, though. As mentioned, he's going for that Stim Pack and delaying his factory, which I kind of am assuming that potentially he's doing this build because we were talking about him earlier, and Grubby was actually sitting next to LucifroN, so we were talking about how much of a Hellion machine LucifroN is. So suddenly, if LucifroN shows up with a nice amount of Marines and Marauders, it could potentially throw off Grubby a lot.
Grubby transitioning into his robotics bay, though, and very quickly we'll know what variety this is going to be, if he wants to put on a little bit of pressure with Colossi here at the beginning, or if we're going to see forges, an eventual tech upgrade, and a movement into his third base. Now, this could also be that fun build one Colossus and immediately switch it up into Storm, Sinblink, Stalkers, and Charge Lots and such. We've noted before that Grubby does love his Storm play, and we'll see if that ends up popping up here.
So it looks like LucifroN's wanting to go for a medevac drop with the stim pack. It's going to hit around like 915, 920 if he gets it out quick enough. We'll see if that's the plan for him here, as everything's starting to line up very quickly for him. The quickest you can do this drop at is 845, but I feel like it's a little bit on the delayed side, just how the builds are really starting to really land out here. There goes finally getting that factory in terms of throwing a reactor on top of it so he can go into double medevac production. But look, Grubby is coming in immediately here, is going to scout the transition quite quickly here. A perfect scout here for Grubby.
Yeah, I mean, he gets the exact time on when this dropped down. He knows exactly when these medevacs are going to be hitting now. There is a decent amount of forces still available for LucifroN, don't get me wrong. Obviously, Grubby has been investing in infrastructure and been investing into his Colossus tech more than anything else at the moment. But once he starts adding on Colossi, as his range is already on the way, so he's going to invest very heavily into these, he'll be able to put down a lot of gateway units very soon.
Yeah, Grubby realizes that he's going to need to start getting ready for this, falling up into the extra gateways here. He wants to have a nice amount of units out to help defend against this drop. He's going to be able to have a couple of forces on the right side here, potentially a couple of stalkers to help out with those medevacs, try and kill them off very quickly, Crater Prime-esque like, and potentially leave his Colossus just down at the natural so he can hop into the main if need be, but still be able to defend up the front wall pretty naturally.
Yeah, and this is a build that's harkening back a little bit all the way to IPO4 when player Squirtle actually made his way quite far into the brackets when he ended up going for this very heavy, usually attack with 2 Colossi, move out, rally your third up to the front as you're trying to do damage. You can really disrupt an opponent who's going up to 3 bases very quickly. As it stands, though, it's going to give him a quite stout army to push back this large bioforce.
Well, Maraud's in charge forward, and Colossus there. Well, nice force field's going to go ahead and land some of his units and kill them off very quickly here, and that actually forces LucifroN to pull back. Wait a minute, you have 2 Colossi in the field, this is really quick. And then also falling up to 6 gateways, Grubby has a really strong force within the next minute or two that's going to start popping out for him if he wants to get aggressive. The thing is, he's falling up into a lot more probes, so it actually kind of looks like he wants to expand. Yeah,
that may have been a snap decision too, because he may have had the intention to go ahead and move out there, do some damage, which is what I think he genuinely wanted to do, but he greets a very large force at his front door. He's got pretty good scouting on his opponent, and decides, well, wait a second, you know, you're not on 3 bases, you're not very susceptible, you picked up on these Colossi very early, you'll be able to switch into units that'll be able to take those out.
Yeah, and actually with that as well, just having the Colossi out so quickly prevents LucifroN from having too many medevacs in the field. You can't really afford extra starports off of 2 bases. You need to get that third up, and so LucifroN is moving to that third base so he can start moving into extra starports. So gonna go ahead and engage here. He does snipe a Colossus, not paying attention here. LucifroN now will charge forward, gonna take out Stalkers as well. The Colossi too darn slow, and with a pickup as well will be able to retreat, getting a free Colossi. There is a medevac gonna go down, just gets away very lightly there. Nice shots there from LucifroN. Pylon is there if he actually got a Stalker in right away, but I believe his warp gates were on cooldown.
Yeah, 7 hit points remaining, so a good attack for LucifroN. He walks in, picks off a Colossus, gets out with only losing minimal forces. Did a nice job of catching Grubby, you know, in pretty bad position from around the side there. Looks like LucifroN does have his 3rd orbital command finished up. Not confident enough to be able to move that out quite yet, and a little bit of a spike there, so we're just going to go ahead and, okay, there we go. Looks like we're good to go now.
Yeah, so I'm going to make sure that it wasn't lagging or anything. So there we go. We'll pop it up. There is a pylon right outside this left side here. And from here, it's going to be a little bit on the harder side for LucifroN to hold this. He is falling up into 3 bunkers right away. The Colossi, although only 2 of them, still do a decent amount of damage there. With the Vikings, though, he will force the Colossi to pop back. Stalkers will have to go ahead and join forces here, as we do have a 3rd on the way. So this is going to be a light harassment, not really meant for Grubby to kill him off unless he gets a really good engagement.
Right. He has done a good job, though, of forcing down the first couple of bunkers. As you mentioned, though, 3 more were on the way, but there's no SCVs in position to be able to deal with these. And the Colossi are still firing away very, very nicely. Just 1 Viking remaining, actually, off to the side. May actually take out 1 Colossus, but that's going to be about all. No, doesn't even get that, and the Colossi are just ravaging this bunker line.
And LucifroN's doing a drop at the same time outside of the natural, too. He's getting some damage on the probes, but it looks like, oh, yep, will be cleaned up pretty nicely there from Grubby. And Grubby just pushing forward right away. There isn't any Vikings on the field. There is 1 or 2 that just popped out. Will finally kill off that Colossus. But he is doing a nice amount of damage here, especially with SCVs in the front line. He's getting some nice area effect damage on him. The Marauders will charge forward and finally deal with this Colossus, but LucifroN definitely takes a beating there.
Yeah, and these Marines are actually coming right back, going to pick off a few more probes back on Grubby's side, too. A lot of those have actually fallen, so a nice job by LucifroN to try and inflict some damage around the side, although Grubby does manage to get his third base up. LucifroN has his third command center completed, too.
Oh, man, that gets away just slightly once again. LucifroN. Oh, the stalker.
One more shot.
Nope, doesn't do it. Not quick enough. There is another pilot. Maybe he gets it. Bam! There we go. Now it goes down immediately there. Would like to see LucifroN move to his third really quickly. He does have a nice amount of Vikings out, a nice amount of medevacs as well, so he can take his third pretty safely, especially after killing off all this Colossi. But look at the economy here. 51 to 35 in harvesters. LucifroN really hurting. Unfortunately, as you mentioned, not pulling those SCVs quick enough when the push came to his natural really threw him off. And I believe he was too busy dealing with the drop going down into Grubby's natural.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. So Grubby gets a little bit better of it there for a bit, although LucifroN's army is still quite large, considerably larger than his opponent, as a matter of fact. What do we have for upgrades going around? 1-1 finished up now for LucifroN. Grubby sitting on nothing, just as first forge finishing up right now.
It's going to follow up into a second forge as well as that third is finishing up. He can start moving into those double upgrades. Grabbing that +1 armor first. Got to make it a little bit easier for his Zealots to get into this Bioforce, essentially. But that's kind of the thing of going for quick Colossus, is that you just can't afford to get upgrades. So he really wanted to do a lot of damage at the push, and it worked out for him. So just be careful here for Grubby. You have to sit back for a little bit as these upgrades are going to have to take their time to finish off.
Yeah, and it's not a great consolation to him, but it does help in the fact that LucifroN, in the midst of all this damage that was being done, was really late to put up his armory. So those 2-2 upgrades are actually going to be delayed for quite a long period of time. That should allow Grubby to at least finish up +1 armor before 2-2 is well on its way for LucifroN. But now he's moving in with 1-1 upgrades to his opponent's nothing. Great position on the Vikings from around the side. He picks off one Colossus very quickly. No, it actually gets away with 8 hit points, but it's neutralized and not going to be a factor at all in this fight.
This push is so strong here for LucifroN because the +1-1, the amount of Vikings on the field. That third is killed off so quickly here. Probes are going to be starting to retreat right away, but Grubby really can't do much to hold this. He's trying to get another Colossus out at the moment. It's going to take some time for it. Does tick away. Needs a chrono it. Starting to get some units in as he did create a few more gateways. 3 more are on the way, but he has to wait for them to finish up and to move into Warp Gate. So from here, it looks like the LucifroN's going to take that third, and now actually I would be okay with him retreating.
Had this engagement even happened about 30 seconds later, though, it would have been a little bit of a different story, so that Colossus would have been able to sit in there and soak up a lot more damage and get a few more swipes. Still think LucifroN had the big advantage there, but it would have been a better position for Grubby. Very nice job, though, to walk up and pick off a couple of units with some good force field control. So Grubby manages to get a few more units back in his favor, but things are still looking fairly bleak for him at the moment.
Well, I believe actually LucifroN meant to pull those units back. His Vikings actually did fly all the way back. Unfortunately, those were just sitting there, so that may have just been a small misclick from him. And now grouping up these units once again, but as you just highlighted, there are some Zealots heading to this top left base right away to start harassing this third. There is a bunker available for LucifroN, so that makes run-bys a little bit harder for Grubby to pull off.
Yeah, and it looks like Grubby's trying to catch a few units here in the middle of the map, but of course that's going to force everything to come back for LucifroN. Grubby does not want to engage this right now. He turns around and he tries to pick off a couple of Vikings as LucifroN is retreating, and he has forced a couple of stims out of there. At the very least, it's going to keep the energy on the medevacs very low.
Yeah, I actually felt like LucifroN had a good advantage there. There wasn't too many Stalkers. There was only 3, I believe.
Yeah.
Those Vikings actually could have killed a Colossus very quickly, and then he could follow it up with those 2 stims that he did on those units and push in and kill off the Stalkers very quickly because they were in the front line. The Zealots actually weren't in front of the Stalkers either. So LucifroN may have missed an opportunity there, and that's why he missed the opportunity. It's because the Zealots made their way into the third.
Yeah, many workers being killed here, a decent amount. A lot of workers have actually been slaughtered. 29 workers killed at 21 in favor of Grubby at the moment while he repositions his army off to the right-hand side. Now, this could just, I mean, LucifroN doesn't know about the space on the left-hand side yet, at least to the best of my knowledge. Let me go ahead and take a look. Yeah, okay, so he's not aware of that. So Grubby's actually getting a pretty nice advantage, and it makes it just look like he's trying to retake his third rather than, you know, trying to do much else. Yeah,
LucifroN thinks this is an all-in, actually. He stopped creating SCVs. He's just trying to get as many units as possible, falling up into medevacs as well. He thinks that if he holds this, he's going to be feeling pretty darn nice. But the thing is, as you mentioned, there were a lot of gateways that followed up, and we did have that third Nexus that was sneaked down by Grubby. Smart play from him. And he's also following up into his Twilight Council, which means he can start moving into 2-2 and also start getting those Blink Stalkers on the map that he is so darn deadly with.
Blink Stalkers, move up to Templar tech, just a lot of opportunities get available to him there. And there it is, 2-2 and Templar on the way. Of course, he is going up to a 4th base, and you can see that that's reestablished. So LucifroN thinks that, you know, oh, okay, well, maybe this is going to be my moment to strike and move up there and try and disrupt that third once again. But Grubby will have already received the economic benefit of this base, which is now revealed by an SCV.
Good scout there from LucifroN. He goes, oh snap, I need to push out now, and there you go. He's actually moving across the middle of the map. He wants to try and prevent that third. But the fourth base actually going up, because Grubby will be in a great position. The 3-base Protoss added with the fourth base moving it is so strong. And here we go, LucifroN's moving forward. He does snipe a Colossus, 2 of them actually. Wow. Very quickly there, and there is one less, 2 less Colossi. Now only 1 left on the field. The Mikey's doing their best to take it. He has so many on the field. He will kill off that Colossus, and now LucifroN can engage if he wants to. Force fields will hold him back though.
Yeah, no AoE damage available whatsoever for Grubby. A couple of EMPs hit the vast majority of these sentries, and in fact, they have no more energy left over for any kind of force field play, and that's it. GG. Grubby goes down. LucifroN takes game number 1.
LucifroN with that killer instinct, man. As soon as he saw that base move straight on forward, and that was a great play by them. He needed to do it. If that force base went up for Grubby, he would have been moving into High Templar tech. He would have had a lot of gateways to fall up and a lot of reinforcements, and I actually felt like he would have taken the game moving into it. So nice there from LucifroN, going with the killer instinct and killing off his opponent quickly. All
right, well, there we go, guys. That's game number 1 of this best of 3. We are going to run to a quick commercial break, and when we get back, it'll be time for game number 2. Here, we'll see if Grubby can tie it up.